Okay, we're ready.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Police Accountability Commission meeting of Monday, November 3rd, 6:30 p.m. We would like to do the call of order and roll call. So Dawn, how about if we start with you? Are you here? Dawn is here. Cicely? Mohammed? Z? Oh, but can he be here?
Oh, he's gonna be sworn in.
Do we know if Cecilia's going to be here or not?
I didn't hear from her.
Okay. And I'm here, so we're all here. And the next thing would be an approval of the agenda. Would somebody like to make a motion on the agenda?
Yeah, motion to press.
Second?
Well, actually, on the agenda, oh no, I'm sorry. You're right. So maybe we won't have Zachariah vote on the agenda,
Okay,
but then we'll have him vote after.
okay. So we have a second. Everyone in.
Who motioned?
I did.
I do have a question though, before, as a discussion. I know that we had made the comment that we were going to, let me ask a question. On the long range calendar, can we add things that came from the old list?
Yes.
Okay. Then.
So that was Mohammed made the motion. Who seconded?
Seconded. I made the motion, he seconded.
Oh,
No.
okay.
Yes, I made the motion, he seconded. I said I was doing well, maybe let me.
Well, we'll get there, don't worry.
Okay, next thing would be, and it was unanimous on the.
Excellent.
Okay, brief announcements from staff, commissioners, council liaison.
I personally have no announcements.
Does anyone have an announcement?
No, that's at the long range calendar. That's at the end. Yeah. This would be if you went to a, meeting or something like that. Yeah. Okay.
We have nothing.
Except for to welcome Mr. Janako, but of course we'll do that formally when he presents.
Okay. So so the next thing is public comments and public comments for if anyone has anything that they would like to address that is not on the agenda, or in the event that you are not going to be able to be here for something that is on the agenda. And you have 3 minutes.
And this time we have the timer, so.
Good evening, and I'm glad I can come to this commission's meeting. My name is Ning Wan. I am the granddaughter of Lost Chinese Empire, and I'm the legal owner of Ning Wan Soap Pub. But the fund so I was hold hostage with the Chinese Communist Party for 27 years. I came to the United States, escaped from the communists. But the fund was not, I've never had access, but it's at the hand of my family's nanny who kidnapped my twin brother. And both me and my brother was born at Woodland Gibson House. And my grandpa is the first president of the Republic of China, Chiang Kai-shek. I want to share something with everyone. Last Wednesday, actually, I was, in the morning, I went to UC, so it's related to police action, but it's not City of Davis. What happened to me on last Wednesday is in the morning, I went to Alumni Center, UC Davis, because I worked 18 years for UC Davis. So I'm a retiree, and my family established the UC Davis. So I was looking for information, and there was one police come over say, hey, someone called and you should not in the campus for 7 days. It's called the 6x6 626, whatever code. Then I told that person I have a business here, and but I left. And in the afternoon, my phone told me, my UC Davis account, email nwan@ucdavis.edu actually was taken over by UC Davis. I went to Morocco, and the 2 police showed up and took me to the jail. And at the paper, it says, offense. It's, I don't know how to say, 626.6, the code. And then description is no non-student refused to. And then it says misdemeanor, and the warranty issued is October 29th, 2025, and the warranty number none. So I want to, just I kind of want to make aware. I don't think that's proper for what I've done. On the way to the Yolo County, detention center, at the police told me, we will not jail you. Okay, we just need to go through, verify you are in one, but I stayed there for like almost 10 hours. Yeah, so maybe I can. I hope you are kind of expert in this area. Maybe I can get some information and talk to you in the future. Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm Alan Hirsch. Maybe you've seen me in the farmer's market. I'm there every Saturday. I pass out these love your neighbor signs. I've passed out about 4,000 or 5,000 of these things over the last 5 or 6 years. The best way to, this is my new sign, the best way to basically turn an enemy into a friend is love. And I'm not just, this is not bullshit. This is real. This is real. And I am concerned that our city has taken a wrong turn on this thing. We have the Hate Free Together Summit. And I have an essay. There was a period in the Vanguard which the city did not pass out to this Hate Free Summit. And I basically said, you can't fight hate by hate. So trying to basically say this Hate Free Summit, you basically create a dichotomy. There's haters and there's victims. And you try to wipe out the haters. But when you have group conflict, which group wins, which group loses, which group do we deport, which group wins the battle, political battle? We need to facilitate engagement between people who are talking and in dialogue. We need great dialogue. Gandhi said, peace is not the absence of conflict, it's how you hold the conflict. And we need to encompass that. We need to talk about a beloved Davis community where we trust one another, where we listen to one another. We realize even though we disagree, we all have good motives. And that's what we need to turn to. We need to basically end the hate-free program and its naming and call it the Beloved Davis Project. That we all, even when we disagree, we acknowledge one another as we all are to want the best of the community. And the police are part of the police, I think, have actually turned the corner. They have learned to de-escalate instead of basically using force to solve problems. They try to de-escalate. That's been the new policing over the last 10 years. And we need to take that to heart in our citizens and do reparative damage, reparative programs. We need to listen to other people. We need to facilitate civil dialogue. There are some people who want hate because it serves their mission to basically call themselves victims and basically say they can do whatever they want as a result. We need to basically turn that around and say, we are working together. We will talk civilly. We will get along. We need a Beloved Davis program. And I have these signs. If you'd like to pick one up in the farmer's market, love is the only thing that will turn a friend into an enemy into a friend. And I hope you will put one up on your front yard, in addition to the Love Your Neighbor signs, which I've given out, because this is what we need to do to make our community safe for everyone. Because policing is about trust and safety. And basically knowing your neighbor and trusting them and having dialogue with them, even though you disagree, is the essence of making Davis a safe place. So thank you hope you'll support that. I hope you will basically ask the city to support that too, in terms of reframing the Hate Free Together program as a Beloved Davis program. Thank you very much.
Consent calendar is the minutes Would somebody like to make a motion, please, to pass the consent calendar? Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. We have the swearing in.
Oh, yes, sorry.
You want to be here, huh?
Please not censor my
Thank you for reminding me.
Please pass it out.
This. I think we'll go ahead with the swearing of the commissioner.
Yes,
the
I'm
new
sorry.
Commissioner. So, Zachariah, this is our council member, Gloria Partita.
Hello, good to see you again.
And I realized that I should have printed out 2 copies of this so you can both read it. So you're going to have to kind of be together as you read this.
I believe I can do this.
Yes. Okay. Why don't you come down
Oh,
here in front of the podium and Gloria will swear you in. I really apologize for the lack of the call. Okay, probably will be good, but I apologize.
Raise your right hand. I
I,
state your name.
Zachariah Okenda,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation
without any mental
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well
and that I will
and faithfully discharge the duties
faithfully discharge the duties
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which
Thank you. I'll get you to sign this later. Yeah.
Whoops.
I can
Oh.
do that for you. Congratulations. I'm just gonna-
Yay. Okay, so consent calendar, consent calendar. We had a motion. Did somebody make a motion to approve the consent calendar?
moved.
So moved. Second,
second,
second. All in favor?
Wait, one moment, please. So Dawn motioned and who seconded? Cecilia. Okay.
I didn't realize Don motioned before.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. I have a question for you. Do I have to open up for public after that, after consent calendar? I mean, I can, but I
I
mean,
suppose you do. Yes,
Okay,
technically you
if-
do.
so if anyone would, in the public like to speak to the consent calendar, please come on up. Okay, so the next thing is number 7, regular item. AI and its impact on policing, presentation by the OIR group. And you're on.
Present from slides for you.
Promise?
I promise. I have them right here. Just a moment. Let me get them up. No, they're here. For goodness sake. There we go.
All right.
Right in the names.
Good evening, everyone. Commissioners, good to be with you in person this evening. I've had a chance to spend a day in Davis and had a chance to meet with your new city manager, who is now into his 8th week, I understand. But as part of my trip up here, I thought it might be helpful, and you all agreed to talk a little bit about artificial intelligence as it has or has the potential of impacting public safety or policing in the country. This topic was a topic that I presented to the National Association of Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement as a webinar in June of this year. I had two co-presenters that are not with me, so I'm going to have to play the role of all three of them this evening. But while that was presented as a webinar, I always prefer to, present in person if possible. So if we go to the slide, and really this is going to be a very high level introduction of the topic and some of the particular ways in which artificial intelligence is becoming used and useful by police. This is one definition of artificial intelligence, but I'm using a very loosely defined definition when I'm going through this presentation. So some people have a more narrow definition, but it's essentially how police are using computer-aided programs to conduct their responsibilities to provide public safety to us. That's essentially what I'll be talking about. Go to the next slide, please. So in Santa Clara County, which we also monitor, we're the monitor Santa Clara County, they had a murder in their jails in January of this year. And one of the problems is that this person was essentially the incarcerated person who was victim and ended up being killed was in a dormitory with a bunch of other incarcerated people. And unfortunately, he was killed by them and beaten to death. The assault by numerous of the incarcerated folks who are now being charged by the DA's office went on for several minutes. And there was a camera in the dorm that captured all of it. So it's going to be obviously good evidence as the DA prosecutes the case, but there weren't eyes on the camera in real time, which meant that no one was watching this assault happening in real time that led to this person's death. There's a lot of reasons for that. One is resources. There are hundreds of cameras in the two jails in Santa Clara County. So there are not the resources for a person to keep eyes on these cameras at all time. They can always be pulled up after the fact when an incident happens, like a use of force or an incident like this, but not in real time. AI may be able to fix that. There are programs being developed where cameras will be able, smart cameras will be able to identify unusual events on screen. So for example, if there is a camera like in this room and it's 3 in the morning and the camera sees movement suggesting that somebody is in this location, that's an unusual event. If the camera is in a jail dormitory and there is assaultive behavior, the camera can be taught to identify that as an unusual event. And once those events are identified as unusual events, an alert can then go to whoever, the police department, jail authorities, in real time to say, something's going on in that dormitory that doesn't seem to be making sense. Or something's going on in council chambers that seems unusual. And then there can be an immediate response to that. So that is an example of how AI will begin to assist with public safety and preventing violence and stopping violence in real time rather than identifying the perpetrators after the fact. So if the Louvre had AI in their jewels, because they didn't have a guard there, if they had AI in the jewels department where all the jewels were stolen, they would have been able to immediately see there's something going on with regard to the cases being smashed, et cetera, and there would have been an immediate response and there would have been immediate apprehension. So I think the Louvre may be thinking about an AI program like this. Now, this is relatively in its infancy, so it's not perfect. It's not where it needs to be. But I would suggest, some people tell me, some of the vendors that are working on programs like this are suggesting that it'll be ready for prime time within 3 to 5 years. So it's right around the corner. So obviously there are still going to be issues, with regard to this program. Once it becomes developed, no programs are perfect. So for example, the second bullet, what if it doesn't work? Who's to blame? Do you sue the camera company? Do you sue the AI programmer? So there are going to be liability questions. That's going to be worked out. It's going to be it's going to be a more complex system for sure. We go to the next one. This is another issue that where AI programs could assist and already are beginning to go live. Right now in the city of Davis, when somebody complains about police activity, I get notified. Police department eventually gets notified. If they go straight to the police department, I also get notified. But it requires somebody to either physically come down to the police station or give me a call or send me an email, send me a text before I learn about that. There's no other efficient or effective system to really get a good sense of what the public in Davis or any other city think about their police department. Now, private industry is way ahead of policing in this regard. So I flew out here on Delta. I've already gotten an email from Delta saying, how did the flight work for you? And when I get back, I'll get another email from Delta, from Hertz, from my hotel. You all have experienced this, essentially saying, how'd we do? And I choose most of the time not to respond, but I can always, you can. And I think some people always respond, which is interesting. But nonetheless, there isn't that same kind of built-in system for most public safety organizations or most really city organizations, city departments. But there are now programs that can do that and can do that effectively. So we also are the monitor for the city of Las Cruces in New Mexico. And in Las Cruces, New Mexico, what they've adopted is an AI program that you can buy, and it's live now, which does this. When you call the police for service, whether it's a concern about, unusual activity, burglary, or more serious crimes or domestic violence, whatever, the police will respond. They will handle the call. Maybe arrests will be made, maybe not. Maybe the cat will come down from the tree, whatever it is. And they will clear the call at some point. Once the call is cleared per this program, what then happens next is that the person who made the call for service and any other folks that the police interact with who they have identifying information about will get a text or an email and say, hey, we know you called for service last Tuesday. How did we do? And again, then the person has the option of responding or not. Again, providing input and through AI Assist, doing it in an effective and efficient way. We can go to so that's a potential solution that Barbara's put up there. Of course, there's going to be issues, as the next slide points out. the monitoring the feedback, what the intervention is going to be. In Las Cruces, when they have feedback on these programs, the sergeant, the supervisor of the officers who responded will get the feedback directly, and he or she can then, if they choose, and they usually do choose, to send that feedback directly to the officers. So the officers have a better sense for how at least the public thought they handled that call, which I think also always helps with regard to learning, what went right, what went wrong, at least get impressions from folks. Most of the time it's positive. So they're getting these positive reinforcements on a more regular basis. The next one has to do with body worn camera. So as some of the veteranos on this commission know, one of the things that we do as auditors when we are reviewing the way in which the police department has handled a complaint is we look at the police report, we look at the recordings of any interviews, but we also look at any body worn camera that the officers activated that showed them responding to the event. And that body worn camera is very helpful to us in evaluating the complaint, the use of force or what have you, because it has a recording, both audio and video, of the incident, usually. And the police department does it if there's an arrest behind the call for service or the response. Those body worn cameras will be downloaded and sent to the district attorney along with the arrest reports. But under Davis policy, under Davis Police Department's policy, as well as every other city or county that uses body worn cameras, and I think it's 98% these days in California, as far as penetration and use, they have got these cameras going all the time, all day, all the time, all interactions. Many do not result in arrests. And so all these interactions that the police are recording are uploaded, but then at some point they go away and no one ever looks at them. So at times we have recommended and think it's helpful for sergeants to randomly look at all of this recorded data to see, because it really provides a picture of how officers who are working for them are interacting with the public in the field. Do they have time and resources to look at every body-worn camera on every officer that's on their shift? No, that's impossible. So hundreds of thousands of hours of video and audio evidence are going away every day, never being reviewed, never being looked at, never being considered, never being audited, if you will. There are now programs coming out that have AI do this work for the supervisor and even for the auditor. And how does that work? Well, the AI is taught, these are what we want you to be looking for when you examine all these hundreds and hundreds of hours of video audio footage. We want you to focus on whether an officer is using discourteous language, profane language, racial epithets, or just being rude. We want you to focus on whether an officer is using force in the field. And when you see a word like that, we want you to alert and download that piece and send it to a supervisor. And therefore, AI can now do the work of sifting through all of this tons of evidentiary material and identifying issues, and then the supervisor is then able to take appropriate action. The same can be done for good officer behavior as well. So, thank yous, and you can put any word or series of words or phrases you want into the program, and eventually the AI bot will eventually learn how to focus on those words. It's already live for audio. It's still being worked on for video. That's way more complex. Video data is way more difficult to evaluate in that way. But AI is getting on it, and they're starting to make progress in that area. So the next slide that Barbara just put up just goes into a little more detail of what I just told you. So there are outstanding issues. If you can go to the next slide, Barbara. You know, the association, some of them are pushing back on this. Some of the officers may end up pushing back on this because there may be a concern that this is too much Big Brother, too much evaluation. They said that, of course, when body-worn cameras first came out, and now everyone loves them. So, or most everyone loves them. And so I think these hurdles will eventually be overcome. So we go to the next slide. This one is more controversial. And this is, again, similar to the program I just described. It's the same concept, but used in a different way. And that's automated facial recognition. When I went to the airport, I was victimized by automated facial recognition, and I will again tomorrow when I go back. So when you go to most TSA stops these days, they have you look in a camera, right? And what they're doing is seeing whether your face matches the driver's license that you are producing for identification. Do you have to go through that? Do you have to have that camera take a picture of you? You don't. But your option is to go to secondary where they spend 10 minutes finding other ways to identify you. So 99.999% don't want that intrusion. So in the same way that you don't have to go through the metal detectors, you can be patted down. Most people choose option A. That being said, there have been some issues with regard to automated facial recognition. My opinion is that in the rush to bring it out, they brought it out too fast. And they weren't ready for it. And what they found in the initial results of automated facial recognition was that it wasn't very good. Well, it wasn't very good at successfully recognizing women and people of color. You have a theory about why that might be? Does anyone want to speculate on why that might be?
Training data,
Pardon me?
training data,
Training data.
the photos that they actually
to,
feed the system.
and
to
to
train.
Zachariah's point, the people that were inventing these programs were mostly white males. So they were using their own bias to populate and to teach the AI bot about facial recognition. And that's why we ended up with this imbalance and this, inability to successfully identify women and people of color. Yes.
To address that, when you say training, I don't know what that means. They were just putting a lot of different photographs of white males in there and that's
Correct.
rather than just having a lot of women,
A
people.
larger subset, yes. When we're talking about training in that context, we're talking about training the computer. Yeah.
Just a kind of a
Yeah.
comment is that, I mean, if you actually look at the tech industry, Asian are pretty.
Full transparency, this guy's an AI expert. All right.
So I think Asians are a big part of the workforce. So it might also be other reasons. For example, you have censorship in China, and so you don't get much data out of China. So there could be other reason, but at least Asian is a pretty significant numbers in the workforce.
Yes.
All of these companies.
Yes.
So.
And one of the big proponents of all of this is China. So they are way ahead with regard to facial recognition, and there is no dissent tolerated in China about some of the concerns about using automated facial recognition. But when this first rolled out, or beginning to roll out, the next slide talks about how Oakland banned it because it wasn't working fairly because of the glitches that I've already talked about.
Earlier in the game. Also problem with
Yes. Right. And it is a little bit cultural to Cecilia's point in the sense that, and this is this is sort of generalization. So, but generally, folks that are trans or LGBTQ tend to not always look the same like some of the rest of us. They are altering their hair, their facial appearance, not the facial structure, but a lot of other things that that the robot is using to identify folks. And to some degree, that's also true for women. Women tend to change their hairstyles more than men, for example. We go to the next slide, and that's automated license plate readers. Again, this is a controversial area of using AI for public safety. It has in the earlier renditions, it wasn't very accurate. I think that has improved and will continue to improve. But the concern with regard to ALPRs, which have been around for a while now, is the biggest concern is 2 and 4 on this chart and 5. And it's not so much that this is a significant intrusion because it's just taking a picture of a license plate and seeing whether or not that license plate has had any alerts with regard to potential stolen car, expired registration, whatever. The concern is the collection of the information, how long it's going to be stored for, and what it's going to be, who else gets to access it. So, for example, with regard to actually all these programs, those issues present themselves. But one of the concerns is that this information will be shared with ICE, for example. And there's a great concern that then ICE will use it to enforce immigration violations. And California has a law that says not supposed to do that. So there are some issues with regard to that. So
Davis has one of these, right? That was just recently approved this year.
yes,
And I read the police policy, the procedures that we have written for the department. One of the concerns that came up, I didn't live here yet. I'm still new to the community, but reading the meeting history and everything, and then the rules that you guys have created in the city, one of the issues is also you might identify one of those vehicles with a license plate, but written into the policy is also there's an onus on the officer who's using that alert to actually take action on this vehicle to make sure it's the right person of interest that's associated with the vehicles, because a lot of us have multiple people who drive the vehicles that we own. And so there's issues of misidentification. And we've seen how that can go really wrongly, even in recent years.
right. And so there are policy reasons for restricting its use or coming up with protocols on when you can use ALPRs and when you can't, or what Eureka did, which is just ban it. So, I'm not suggesting that these things are a panacea for the reasons that I'm identifying. I'm not all in on AI. I think it can be a helpful tool, but Again, there are countervailing considerations that Zacharias pointed out.
And I think that's how Davis tried to navigate that balance.
They are, and as is the city writ large. But it really impacts the way in which policing is done in the city.
Sure.
ShotSpotter is a good example of what didn't work. This was AI-ish before AI was even a thing. So it's been around for 10 years or so. And the ShotSpotter idea or concept was that you could put up these receivers, and these receivers throughout an urban area would alert when the receiver detected what sounded like a shot, like a bullet being fired. And then the police could respond. The problem, it sounds good. The problem is that most of the alerts were false positives, and you were having police responding over and over again to these over-policed neighborhoods, which is where they have to put the cameras or the receivers in an unfair way. So Chicago took them down after they spent millions of dollars buying them. I don't think they got a refund from the vendor, but they did take them down. And I think that they are so yesterday now, if you will. I don't know that many, if any, agencies continue to use ShotSpotters because they just didn't work very well.
Somewhat similar to the, is it okay that I ask a question?
Of course it is.
I don't want to like interrupt your flow.
Not at
but
all.
I know so there's other technologies that do hot spotting around different cities, and that's really popular in police departments. I don't know if that happens in Davis and how that might fit into into AI technology. I mean, you have the ShotSpotter kind of similar idea, but then hot spotting is like trying to use AI to sort of map data trends or something to identify where in particular locations around a jurisdiction you're having most calls for service or most complaints or something like that.
I'm not aware that that is being used. I mean, I can talk to the chief certainly about that, but I don't believe that is going on in Davis. I do know what's going on in other jurisdictions. Red light cameras is another one that has been around a little bit, for a little bit. And this issue again comes up with red light cameras. Zacharias, concern about or point about it's targeting the license plate, not the driver, and then issuing a citation. The way it works is if you're speeding through this area or committing a traffic violation, that the red light camera, or you're going through a stop sign, or you're going through a red light, hence the name red light cameras. That's why they're called that. That you will then be identified through your driver's license, and the owner of that vehicle, the vehicle who's registered, will get a citation in the mail. A lot of people don't like getting citations in the mail. And that's why there has been pushback, mostly because people don't want red light cameras. It's an invasion of privacy, although you're out in public. Go ahead, Angela.
Having received one of these though, but it also took a picture of me. So,
Yeah.
So do they not all do that? Some of them
They
are
don't
just-
all do that, yeah.
If it does take a picture of you, even so, it's like this it's right here on the slide, but it's still, the onus is still on you to say, hey, that's actually not
Not
me in
me.
that picture.
Yeah.
That was my cousin driving my car, but how are they going to know that?
Yep. And before we go to drones, here's the counter argument, which is that nobody likes getting a ticket in the mail. On the other hand, would you prefer to be stopped, detained, searched, and potentially arrested by the police, which is the other alternative for traffic enforcement, right? So it's which one do you prefer? And I think there's a worthy discussion on both sides of that issue.
With the number of people that are running red lights now, though, I mean, wouldn't that be a lot safer?
That would be another argument for using the red light cameras. Absolutely. Drones is another controversial technique that is becoming more and more popular by policing. Sonoma County, we do some work. The current city manager was at Santa Rosa, but there's a lawsuit in Sonoma County where the allegations are that the drones that are being used by the Sheriff's Department in Sonoma County are invading private space in the county, and we'll see how that goes. It was just filed in June, so it'll be interesting to see how that turns out. The advantages that, public safety says, can we go back a couple slides?
sure,
Or-
sorry.
Not a problem.
I'll wait for
you're
you.
doing
I'm
great.
trying to
No, no.
anticipate. when
You're
you-
doing great. You're doing great. Is that they can be used for surveillance, and they can replace other equipment that is controversial that public safety uses. And in fact, this has happened in the city of Davis. So a few years ago, there was a canine program in the city of Davis. One dog that would go out, and if you had a subject hiding in a crawl space, you could send the dog in when it wouldn't be safe to send an officer in, and the dog would then apprehend the person. That's the idea. Unfortunately, sometimes dogs would stay on the bite. They bite the wrong person. There'd be liability, et cetera, et cetera. So after one unfortunate circumstance here in Davis that we actually wrote about in one of our public reports, the chief at the time decided to get rid of the dog and use that money to purchase drones. And so now we have a dog program in Davis. We have a drone program. So the drones, I think, are taking over other equipment that police had typically used and may end up being passé and no longer used. Helicopters and airplanes are another example. Davis doesn't have a plane or a helicopter for his police department, but larger agencies do. And the idea, the thought is that within 5 to 10 years, all those very expensive airplanes and helicopters that you see monitoring police pursuits in the city of Los Angeles, wherever, will be eventually replaced by drones, which are much more nimble, much less to maintain. You have to pay for a pilot. There are a lot of advantages from a monetary perspective of using drones over other kinds of aircraft. But then you run into the privacy issue with drones that you don't as often run into if you have more traditional aircraft. And then the area where it's also been very controversial is when drones are used in protest activity. Because the drones are providing surveillance, but they're also recording what is going on with regard to activity. And essentially, some are concerned that the use of drones will inhibit the ability to peacefully protest. So in Santa Clara, for example, there are restrictions. They have drones, but their sheriff's office is restricted from using them when there's protests.
That is not the policy of the city of Davis. And the current police department's policy manual does not prohibit that. You actually can use drones technically in the city. I don't think that the police department has done that. I'm not sure, but they could, if they wanted to, do that here for those big protests that the city has.
Right. Police robots, again, some have suggested that within 20 years, the police officer on patrol will not be the police officer on patrol. It will be the police robot on patrol. And we'll just have to see how that works out, won't we? There was a very controversial incident about years ago where the chief of Dallas used a robot, put a bomb on the robot, and then got the robot close to a subject who was armed and detonated the bomb, killing the person. By the way, it just killed 5 Dallas police officers. So it was controversial regardless of its effectiveness for the reason are obvious. City of San Francisco wanted the ability to put bombs on their drones. And initially the commissioners at San Francisco agreed, and then they rejected that and have now put restrictions, essentially saying you can have drones, but you can't use bombs on them. But I think we'll see driverless patrol cars soon, in the same way that we have, Waymo and driverless taxis in my city. And we'll just have to see how that works out. No one knows how that's all going to work out.
I was going to ask, like, what is the actual intended benefit of a driverless patrol car? Like,
Well, the benefit is you can get more patrol cars out there. You don't have to pay a police officer to drive it anymore.
you mean like for like a deterrent effect?
Well, you could actually have the person essentially for traffic enforcement, have these cars all over the place, and if somebody is going through a red light, there's going to be several camera shots of that on that driverless patrol car.
I see.
AI is being used for a lot of other things that we won't really have the time to go into much detail, but all of those bullets are ways in which AI is starting to be used. Report writing is the one that is the most prominent. There are concerns with officers using AI to write their reports because it's really now the bot that's really helping to write the reports. And the educators on the commission will know some of the concerns here about using AI. No professor just disciplined 5 students for using AI on an essay, and as the intervention, she required them to write a letter of apology, and all 5 of them used AI to write the letter of apology. So, anyway, obviously there are issues that go beyond the scope of today's presentation. In California, I don't think AI is going to be used much for report writing because a law just got passed. And I think I talked about it at the last meeting or maybe the meeting before, where now if a police agency is going to use AI to write reports, they've got to save all the earlier drafts. And they've also got to say on the report AI generated. I think that's going to be a deterrent for many police using AI to write reports.
Well, and I think also that they're so critical in forming a complaint for prosecution. And if the prosecutor has to go before, a court or a jury and rely on police testimony that is based on AI generated content, like there's going to just be inherent skepticism in the prosecution of that and the reliability of that testimony. So I agree. I think that's an interesting use case that poses its own problems.
Yep. And now there's a battle between the federal government and the states on the use of AI in policing, or the use of AI overall. So current administration is a big fan of AI and doesn't want much restriction on the use of AI. And so there are bills coming out of Congress that are in Congress right now that would limit the state's ability or the city's ability of City of Davis to regulate AI, which is scary. All this is really intended just to provide you a sort of survey of the different uses. And, you know, another concern about AI is it's going to eliminate jobs, occupations. Be the end of policing as we know it. It may be the end of independent police auditing as I know it. So we're all in this and we don't know what tomorrow's going to look like. And it's kind of scary in that regard. But it's there. And so I think we, you know, better to face it head on as things continue to change rather than trying to ignore it.
Anybody have any questions?
Yeah,
or
that's
comments?
that's it for me.
Well, the concern that was expressed already that we discussed, and I just want to reiterate it because it's so concerning, the misidentification potential, you know, women in particular, minorities, that is a big concern. So if they are in fact going to use it, which I would prefer that they don't, but if they are in fact going to do that, they have a lot of work to do in that area. Also, I see problems. I know it's challenging right now under the current administration, but problems with potentially using AI and what are they called? The drones to go after protesters. I mean, protesting is, you know, our right. And to go after people who are, you know, peacefully protesting. We're not talking about the riots that, you know, happened on January 6th, but peacefully protesting. That is just a big concern because if they start using AI and drones to strip away our rights, even more so than the administration is doing, that's just going to be big concern.
And so then the question is, if even if you tolerate the technology for its good, what guardrails can be placed to ensure that this technology is doing what you want it to do?
And I think to the last point that was said, the other thing is that these drones or alike are sort of discreet. Helicopter, if you go on top of protesters, everybody's gonna look up. So you're not aware that you're being watched. So that's even more subtle.
It is more.
Higher resolution, they could snoop behind your window. I mean, it could be anywhere, and you're just not aware of it.
And they're getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
Yeah, imagine if they had those things in the McCarthy era. Just saying.
Thank you.
Though the irony of it is at the picnic day, having drones would have been beneficial, being able to find out the shooters. I mean, so again, it's one of these, I do have a question. You had talked about the Challenger customer service. I know, as I believe I understand, Davis does call, and the department does call after people have had an issue or a complaint, an issue, to find out how did we do. But obviously they can't spend a lot of their day doing that. So do we know, is the Davis Police Department looking at getting the same AI program that you were saying that every other town was that has it?
I have not talked to the chief about it.
I do know that when you call 911, if you have or, you know, cell phone given to them, I mean, I personally have received a survey after I've called 911.
Was it did somebody call or was it?
No, it was on a text saying, how did we do, rate us, that type of thing.
I thought they were phone calls. Hi,
Yeah.
how are you?
No, I get text messages when I report something to 911, like there was a big box in the middle of the road and of course we're swerving around. Or one time it was somebody who seemed to be drunk driving and I reported that. And they sent me a text to inquire about that. So yeah, they do that via text. Yeah.
Anyone else?
Just thank you very much. It was very interesting.
Thank you.
I have a comment on this last point. My research has revealed that a lot of companies that are using a variety of services to investigate customer satisfaction after services of all kinds, whether it's hotels or airlines or the police or whatever, that they are finding they are finding that to some degree, although it's a very new experience, no more than a few months in most cases, maybe a year or two in a few of the cases where they've been able to use AI for these surveys, but there is to the extent that they have been able to draw conclusions at this point, the direct phone call that you mentioned is desirable, and to some people. The fact is that there a very small percentage of anonymous phoning either reaches the person that they want to reach, and then a very tiny percentage of those that reach the person are responded to by the person. Something in excess of 90% of all the connections that are made where someone answers the phone, they disconnect as soon as they hear that it's a survey or that it's someone they don't know. So the efficiency of the live call, when you consider the training, the expense, the turnover, it's a very uncomfortable job for people to have to do, so they quit, and you have to constantly replace them. So I'm already going into too much detail, but I think the point is that it is more and more thought from experience that the media other than phoning, and certainly other than any face-to-face contact, which we don't even talk about because that would be so extremely inefficient. So these other media are coming in, and they're being used because the survey, the value of the survey, the truthfulness of the information gathered is in direct proportion to the numbers. If you have 8 people for and 2 people against, it means nothing. But if you have 8 million people for and 7 million people against, that means a lot. So you have to have large numbers in any survey, and you also have to have some information about the people that are answering the survey, and that comes out of data gathering and what we're calling AI at this point. So it's almost inevitable that this is coming into play in surveying.
Did you want to call for public comment, even though we don't?
I was going to, if there's any public comment on AI. No, seeing none. We'll next go to number 8, please auditor update. And I do see that Michael has popped in and out, not Michael. I'm sorry, Stephen has popped in and out a few times. Oh, there he is.
It's time for him to pop in because he has a case he wants to discuss with you.
You're on.
Okay. Let's see. Good evening, Chair Wilson and members of the commission. Excuse me. Thank you for having me. As you know, I am Steve Conley. I'm Mike Giannakko's partner with OIR Group, and sorry that I'm not able to be with you in person this evening, but I appreciate the opportunity to share with you for a few minutes remotely about a new complaint case. It has been a few months since we did one of these together, and obviously I know that we have some new members of the commission within the last couple months and this evening as well. So just to start off with a brief recapitulation of what our role is, when there is a public complaint about misconduct involving the Davis Police Department, and those cases are reviewed by the department in terms of officer accountability, the role of the independent police auditor in Davis is not to conduct our own investigations into these matters, but instead to review the completed investigations that are done internally by the department to ensure that those matters have been handled appropriately in terms of the thoroughness and fairness and objectivity of the investigation. We have the opportunity to report out to your commission and to the public to summarize what the allegations were and what the department's response to those allegations was, to talk a little bit about the quality of the investigation, and if appropriate or warranted by the circumstances, we'll sometimes make recommendations for systemic improvement. This case that came into the department over the summer was a complaint by an individual who had been arrested by the Davis Police Department. It was a call for service involving a dispute between the complainant and his next door neighbors. The neighbors were the ones that actually called the police out of concern with how the man was acting. And during the police response, they encountered the man. He was initially cooperative, but pretty quickly it became quite contentious, and the officers were having a hard time kind of getting through to him and getting his cooperation in terms of figuring out what was happening. At one point, they decided that they needed to detain him because he wanted to kind of ignore what they were saying and asking him to do and go back inside his house. So they detained him, put him in handcuffs. And the situation just kind of deteriorated from there, where again, he was very challenging of their authority and the things that they were doing and the manner in which they were doing them. At one point, the officers decided to just put him in the back of the radio car again, so that they could kind of conduct some additional investigation and get a clearer sense of what had happened. The man resisted that. The officers ended up guiding him to the ground, and he lay on the ground at his own initiative for several minutes before he finally decided on his own power to kind of spring back up again and get into the car. And he was eventually arrested for trespassing with regard to his encounter with his neighbors, and public intoxication, which was another charge that the department determined was appropriate in the course of the response. So a few days after that arrest, he filed a complaint with the department alleging several issues with the officers, basically their handling of it, the suitability of the arrest, and some of the particulars of how it was handled. He accused them of excessive force and several other procedural issues. And the department looked at each of those things that he specifically mentioned and addressed them. They were able to conduct their review almost exclusively through the body-worn camera that the officers through which the officers had recorded the entirety of the event. And that, in conjunction with the police reports, they basically determined that the officers were justified in their actions, hadn't done anything wrong. And in fact, the evidence directly refuted some of the man's contentions, such as, for example, the whole idea of that the force had been excessive. So we reviewed that completed investigation where the officers were effectively exonerated, unfounded. All the charges were basically found not to be supported at all by the evidence. We reviewed it and basically concurred with the department's analysis. We actually spoke with the complainant at one point. He found out about our role and contacted us during the process, and we had the opportunity to speak with him by phone just to kind of hear his perspective, which we're always happy to do when one of these cases comes across our desk. And that conversation didn't end up going very well, to be honest with you. I was probably on the phone with him for 5 or 10 minutes, and a lot of it was just him challenging the role and basically everything that I was trying to say was just met with 5 more questions and some rebuttals to the whole idea that we weren't simply colluding with the police on this as far as our review of this matter. So it gave us, I wish it had been a little bit more effective in terms of the communication and getting a fuller sense of him understanding our role and me being able to hear more about his perspective rather than just challenging and asking questions. But at the end, it did provide some insight. It kind of dovetailed with the experience that the officers had in the field. And the investigator who looked at the complaint for the department, he had a similar kind of phone experience with the complainant as he was trying to pursue the allegation. So it was a pretty short report. It's included in your materials and obviously available to the public. If you, again, our basic takeaway was that the police investigation was appropriate and the outcome was supported by the evidence. But if anybody has any questions, I'm certainly happy to entertain those.
Anyone have questions?
I do. Just because I'd like to understand more about your guys' your particular role auditing and like how you actually go about conducting this audit. What are the kinds of resources that you review or sources of information you review? Do you either of you go back and actually watch some of the footage? It seems in the footnotes that you kind of have mentioned that like you seem to allude to like the videos matching up and stuff. I just wanted to see if that's included, like what your reviewing actually entails.
So thanks a lot for your question. And I'm sorry if the report wasn't more clear and straightforward about that instead of kind of taking some things for granted. I would say to you that access is one of the key.
I'm just new to the commission, so I'm just trying to understand.
No, that's all right. But hey, and probably members of the public that might be reading the report wouldn't necessarily be aware of what the dynamic and structure is. So you never have to apologize. It's a perfectly valid question. So I guess the simplest way I could put it is that one of the key features of the model and I think a really important ability for us to make informed assessments of the department's handling of these things is the access that we have to basically all of the investigative materials that the department uses in order to reach its determination. So when the case is done, we get a package that includes all the body-worn camera evidence, any recordings of interviews that have taken place with the complainant or involved officers. We get a copy of any police reports, other documentation that are connected to the incident. And we also get a copy of the department's investigative memo, which could range from, 10 pages to 40 pages, depending on the complexity of the incident. So that's a long way of saying we basically get the opportunity to look at everything the department has used and kind of come to our own conclusions about it.
And is it just you two, or do you have other staff? Because that's a lot of hours. I've done body-worn camera auditing. That's a lot of sitting in front of the screen. Do you guys have supplemental resources like AI or anything that's helping you do that kind of stuff?
So I would say a couple things. One, we are small in number, but mighty in spirit and experience. So we've been doing this a long time. We're pretty good about kind of being efficient and effective. But I think the other key factor here, as much as anything, is that the volume of complaints in Davis is really not that significant compared to other jurisdictions. We might have between 5 and 10 complaints in the average year, and it doesn't end up being burdensome in terms of getting through all the material.
All right. Thank you, partner.
I have a question.
Oh, yes.
Thank you. In these investigations, how deeply, or I guess more than deeply, I would say, how wide can you go in terms of, are you reviewing, you are, as you've told us, you're reviewing the investigation that the police department made. But do you ever go beyond that and do investigation of your own, where you might identify in the police report some areas that, had you been there, you might have wanted to ask this question or that question, or there might be a certain party that they didn't interview that comes to your attention, maybe from the conversation you have with a suspect or whatever it might be, or with the police. So I guess I'm looking at the width of what you do as compared to the depth of what you do, if I can put it in those terms. Do you actually go beyond, wider than the tunnel that the police followed, to go into different areas that they didn't, or do you just pretty much evaluate their report?
So Mike, I'll take the first swing at that. And Commissioner Sherman, I guess what I would say is we absolutely have the opportunity to interact with the department to ask follow-up questions or get clarification if there's something that we don't understand. And if we thought that the department fell short in any way, then we would make reference to that in our report and probably frame a recommendation around it. And some of the past reports that are obviously available to the public where we have had questions or concerns or thought that the department could have done something differently or better, then we have mentioned that. What we don't do, and I'm not sure if this is part of where your question is coming from, we review completed cases, so we're not going to go back in there and have them reopen one, or the officer's already been notified, the complainant's already been notified. So we're not going back in there to reopen the case or relitigate the case. To the extent that we might have criticisms or questions or desire for more information, it really would be in a more forward-looking way.
I find the latter part of your answer to make me more puzzled, not less. I think what you're saying, Steve, is that you review the efficiency and the integrity of the police investigation, but you do not go wider into areas that you might feel they should have investigated, or they investigated, but you don't feel that they came to the right conclusion. That your policy is, or your assignment is, to evaluate the integrity of their investigation.
Yeah, so
language, but
if we talked about it in a like a more concrete way, it might be helpful. Let's say, for example, that we looked at an investigation and we thought an additional witness should have been interviewed that was not interviewed, and we're not sure why the department didn't interview that person. We are not going to interview that person ourselves. We're not going to call the person. We're not going to say to the department, can you reopen the case and interview that person? But what we will do is flag it as what we consider to be a shortcoming in the investigation, and again, perhaps make a recommendation when the department is reviewing something like this in the future, that they cover all the bases as opposed to being selective in the way that they were in this particular case, if that distinction makes sense. So we don't revisit the facts or do our own investigation, but we do assess the quality of the department's work and use that as a basis for reporting to the public, first of all, if we have any issues or concerns, but secondly, to make recommendations to the department for systemic improvements.
Okay, thank you.
That many taser deployments?
I am so sorry. I'm not even sure if that question was directed at me. That I lost the audio for a while there. So if you could just bring me up to speed, I'd be grateful.
Oh, sorry. Here I
It's
am
a- it's
talking.
about
I
ta-
didn't realize I wasn't.
No, that's
This
okay.
might be for you.
It
right,
really is.
Michael?
It's about the taser, Steve, which is.
Oh, thank goodness. Well, okay, Mike, I'm very confident in your ability to
The
handle.
mic was over here. I didn't even realize that I wasn't using the mic. My apologies.
No, well, that's what I
There's
get.
been 7 taser deployments since August of 24 to July of 25. And I was just wondering, it seems like a lot for a department the size of the one in Davis, or is that typical? I mean, are the taser deployments something that happen often? I just.
Yeah, well, the short answer is that's not out of whack with our experience.
Okay.
But the longer answer is the data
Uh-huh.
that other agencies report is unreliable.
Okay.
So it's very difficult to compare what happens in Davis with what happens in Woodland because Woodland doesn't put any information out. What's
Okay.
unique about Davis is that because through us, we get all the TASER deployments, we can put that information out.
Okay. And I don't know if you know the answer to this, and I'll try to describe it to the best of my ability. When they do TASER deployments, I'm sure it's different for every situation, of course, but have you had reports or concerns about excessive, meaning they use the TASER in order to get the individual under control, you know, so they're not harming anybody, or I imagine, but there could be, I'm not saying here, but just could be in general, excessive use of TASER, thereby causing the individual harm. And the reason I bring that up is because years ago, when TASERs were first starting to be used in Davis, I remember it was in that room over there, as a matter of fact, where we had our meeting. And there was a young gentleman that came to that meeting. That was with the Human Relations Commission. And their face was somewhat disfigured. It looked like he had had a stroke or something, because it impacted his ability to speak. I mean, there were probably some lawsuits and all that I remember going on, but I'm curious to know, is there any kind of policy whereby the police only use the TASERs to get control over the situation, over the individual, potentially causing harm to somebody?
Yes. It's
That was a long,
it's about
a
five-
long way to describe it.
Yeah, I mean, it's about 5 pages long
Oh, okay.
with all kinds of considerations. So for example, you're not supposed to use a TASER on people who are compromised, who are pregnant, who are young, who are fragile, who are elderly. You're not supposed to use a TASER on somebody who's up on a roof, because what comes up will come down. So
Right.
there are all kinds, and then there's the legal standards. So when we evaluate this, and you'll see our reports as we finish, you'll see all that.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
So just a quick question with regards to the allegation in terms of injuries, were there any medical reports?
Did you hear that, Steve?
Oh, I did hear the question, and there were no, in terms of the jail records, nothing suggesting injury. The body worn camera video did not suggest any injury. There was no complaint of injury during the time of the actual arrest and encounter. And last but not least, the complainant did not provide any evidence for some of the claims that he made, subsequent claims that he made about broken bones, et cetera.
Thank you.
Okay, I just have a couple of questions, and that actually was one of my questions. Because initially he basically said it was a head injury, and then he came into saying that it was broken wrist and ribs. But with the head injury, I'm assuming, had it happened, would have happened when he was on the ground. I mean, but there was nothing that showed any kind of a head trauma. Okay, so my other question is that basically, I've highlighted here that he said that he was not Mirandized. I'm sure that they told him what the cause of arrest was, but they also didn't do a blood breath test. Why not? Because I know they said they did one for him to leave, but if they were suspicious that he was under the influence, why was it not done originally?
So my understanding is that the public intoxication charge did not require proof through a breathalyzer or anything else. The breathalyzer that was administered and that he cited in his complaint as being 0.00, that was actually administered by the jail as a condition of release. When someone is brought into the jail on a public intoxication charge, it is the jail's policy to ensure that that person is no longer intoxicated before releasing them for liability and arrestee wellness reasons. So that's where that test was done. But my understanding is it is not a standard or required thing for the department to have done it on the front end.
Thank you. I didn't know that. Okay, then I would also like to go to the audit, the complaint list. I'm a little confused because one of them that says September 2025, and it says that it is completed. Is that the one that we've just been looking at? Or because there was nothing here that stated what it was, and on the report you gave us, I did not see a date, but those two belong together.
Correct. That's correct.
Will we necessarily see all of these, or do we just see some of them?
Oh, no, absolutely. The intent is to provide you with all of them as they are completed. Some of them are more complicated and you know, others are relatively straightforward like this one. And the same with the TASER case. I know there's been a lot of or cases, I should say. The department provides us with access to individual force incidents that meet certain criteria, and any TASER deployment is going to be in that on that list. So our intention is to package a few of the TASER cases together, because I know the board has expressed an interest in it, and share them as a kind of a major presentation at a future meeting.
And is there any kind of a timeline with any of these that quote unquote, you have 72 hours to do the completion? I mean, is there something like that? I mean, or theoretically, could you take 6 months or a year to even, it just is what it is?
Yes, I mean, obviously, it's a fair point, and sooner is better than later. But again, there are a lot of factors that go into the timeline and staging of these things. But yes, it is absolutely our intention to provide you with information about all the pending things on that list.
Thank you. If we don't have any other questions, I'll open this up for public comment. None? We have none. Okay, so the next thing, number 9, is subcommittee updates. Cecilia and Dawn, you guys were not here last month. And one of the things that we have discovered is that any of the outstanding things that we had on our pending calendar need to be removed, that every year we should be starting new. So all the things that were on the calendar from last time, what we need to decide is whether or not any of these we want to carry forth or not, or just to let them all go. And I don't think they are not included with the minutes. No.
I could put that up on the screen if that's.
Perfect. Well, that's on the long-term calendar. This was not that. Yes, if you have it to put up, that would be lovely. The first thing being tasers, though, so that's already something that is going to be addressed. The second one was after action review for picnic day. And so, yes. Oh, I'm sorry, subcommittee, but we don't have any subcommittees. Oh. Outreach. The outreach, I'm sorry. Oh, so do we have a committee for outreach?
No, last time,
But
well, it would be a new group. It would be a new group with the new board. We would elect new members, and you may be one, but we would elect new members. Yes, sir, we can. So that was what this item was about, where we wanted to appoint members to the outreach event committee. And now that you're a body of 7, it can be 3 members, not just 2. And in the past, I believe it was Dylan, Cecilia, and Dawn for the last outreach event.
so at the last meeting, one of the things we did do is we went through the presentation of what the previous events were. So is anyone else interested in volunteering to be on the committee? Because at this point, we do not have an agenda as to what the outreach is going to be.
What is the role of this subcommittee specifically?
To plan the topic and plan the outreach event itself, and then come back to the commission and inform the commission of what you're doing, and if there needs to be a decision, it'd be decision of the commission.
For what it's worth, my understanding is that part of our mandate as the Police Accountability Commission is to do an event each year.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay.
So that's the history,
And
Zachariah.
that's, yeah, and we've had some discussion about, in the past, about whether we want to do events, and it has been determined that we don't have that choice, really. We're supposed to do one. So I have some ideas about it, others may. If we're going to do an event in April, we have to get going on it to do some planning and to give ourselves enough time to promote it and let the public know about it, and talk about not only what our program will be, but also what is our target market for people to attend such an event, and then the structure of the event. We have some experience. We've done, I guess I can remember doing about 4 of them, I think, up to this time.
We also
But-
talked at the last meeting about potentially doing a short community survey to see what the community was interested in, because you all had discussed that, you wanted to be presenting on a topic that the community could really get around, and there might be good attendance for that topic.
And didn't we also discuss the possibility of doing joint with maybe the Human Relations Committee or something?
Yes, we did talk about that possibility. Last year, for what it's worth, again, an experience that might not apply, but we in planning last year's event, which was the who you're going to call, in quotes, idea, and we presented it to the Social Services Commission and to the Human Relations Commission, offered them both the opportunity to co-host, co-plan with us and co-host, and neither of them responded. So Cecilia, if I'm remembering that wrong, you would be able to tell me. What's your recollection?
No, I could help the subcommittee facilitate that.
I'm happy to volunteer with Don.
Well, Zachary, if you've had experience, and I sense perhaps you have had some experience conducting a public, planning and conducting a public presentation of whatever kind, I think that'd be very helpful. So
I mean, Cicely looks thrilled about the idea.
I think so. I would have to double check, but I think so.
And our contact information is on the roster that you sent us, Barbara?
Yes.
All right. I'll send an email.
Okay, so before we go the next thing, it's 8 o'clock. Do we have to make a motion to extend time? Or is it 8:30? It's 8:30?
We're almost done.
We going to 8? I know, I thought
You
it was.
know, I'm not familiar with that rule with this commission, to be honest with you.
Just gone on, or maybe.
Do you know what it is?
You know, okay.
Okay, so do we
You
have to
can't
make,
take up a new, you can't take up a new item past your time without a motion. But if you're already in the middle of a motion, or if you're already in the middle of an item, then you can finish that item.
but is it 8 or 8:30?
I don't know.
It's
I will
8:30.
research
But
this and find
It
this
has
out for
been
next time.
8:30 in the
Because
past,
for some reason I
which
thought
has
it was
been the
8.
point, and sometimes it's even gone to 8:35 or 8:40 before the chair realized that we were over
I
and
think we can
we-
probably
we-
get
Yeah,
stuff
we'll be fine. I
done.
just thought it was 8, so I just, okay.
I'll confirm
So
that
do we
though.
have to make a motion to have these individuals on the committee, or does it just, are they're
I don't
volunteer?
believe you do.
I think
Or you-
to form a committee,
Need
You
to vote on
should.
it.
you should.
Okay, yeah, why not? We, as we heard in our training, err on the side of getting a vote.
I move in favor of creating a subcommittee for outreach. Okay,
We have a second, all in favor?
Aye,
Aye. Okay,
and I volunteer with Don to join.
Okay,
do we have any public comment? Thank you so much. Okay, so then I'll go back to where I was where I shouldn't have been. So I don't know if you guys can see the list. Is there any way that you can make that a little larger?
Gonna see if I can make it bigger.
But tasers, we've said, we've already talked about. After action, the picnic day incident.
How's that? Made it bigger.
So, thank you. We had downtown public safety. I do know that there is now an officer that is assigned downtown, so that may be something that is already addressed. But that, and this was specifically for, how does new officer gel with homeless outreach employees? Maybe the next time that the chief comes, we could ask that.
So if I could, I'd like to back up and
Okay.
introduce the new process to the group.
Okay.
And so let me, sorry, I thought I had it open.
The staff.
There we
report.
go.
I was wondering what that
The
document
staff
was
Okay,
all
report.
about.
so this is a template and if the body wants to take up an issue, then the new process is that it must get approved by the city council. And so we would, I would create the staff report and to, full transparency in recent months, commissions have wanted to take up an issue and the staff have evaluated it and said, this isn't really within the purview of the group, or this would take an inordinate amount of staff time. And the staff recommendation is no. And so then the council decides to either to go with the staff recommendation or not. So of course, I don't want to, get adversarial with you guys, but, it's just, the process is so that we're taking up issues, you all are taking up issues that can be accomplished with the resources we have. So just for your knowledge, there is this piece to it.
And so this is as a result of last year, correct?
Correct.
The decision was that in order for us to go forth with certain things, we have to have, the council has to approve it. The problem issue with this is a delay in time, which means that once we decide what happens, this will then go to the council. They will make a decision, but it has a certain amount of time because of Brown Act, et cetera, before it can actually go on their calendar. Is that correct?
And if it is something that is clearly within your purview, then I do not believe we need to do this process. Like, for instance, if you want to, hear the AI presentation from the police auditor, if you want to, hear case logs, if you want to do an outreach event, that's all stated as those are the purposes of the commission. It's just when you are thinking about an issue that, may or may not fall into the commission's purview, which, since I'm new, I'll need to get, some opinions on as well. And then just for your reference, I did include the commission initiated task process, just so you have it there. So what I would, encourage you to do is we'll go ahead and make the list, but just have the knowledge that, it may need to go through this process.
As I look at this list though, and this is a question, certain things like the downtown public safety and I don't even know what this moving violation.
Well, some of these things are pretty old that are on that
Well, I
other
know,
list.
but my question is some of these could actually go, can we send something to the chief and have him just send us a report? Are these things that we have to do from here?
Well, I think the purpose would be for the commission to have the work reported to the public. In other words, and you can't, obviously just send him on a wild goose chase of something that's not in your purview,
Oh, no, but I
right?
was, again, like this downtown public safety. I mean, I don't, again, I think Dylan was the one who put that on there. But the question is if this were something we were interested in, couldn't we just get a report?
Possibly.
Right. I mean, rather than it necessarily. Yeah, am I making sense?
Yeah, so what you're saying is like, if you wanted that police officer to come in and just give a presentation, sort of like the presentation you just heard now, that to me sounds like something that's in the purview that has been done before. Police officers will come in and they'll talk about, just because it's part of building a relationship between the community and the police department. And so having conversations with the police department is part of what this commission does. And so that one in particular, I think, doesn't have to go through this process. But if you wanted to, take up a project that was then going to speak to some policy issue that you wanted to make a recommendation to the council on, then it would have to go through this process, because it might not be something that one, that's in your purview, or two, that there's time for, or that would fit into what it is that the council is doing at the time.
But a lot of these, we could actually have an officer come in and maybe address multiple things that are on this list. Correct?
Yeah, some
Yeah.
of them potentially, yeah.
Okay, and again.
And
I-
then, and Chief Henry could advise us, saying, for instance, I mean, he has said, oh, the RIPA dashboard update, that I don't have that data yet, or in terms of racial disparities on stops, that will involve, a lot of research, a lot of staff's time. So that will have to go through the process, that type of thing. So I would just, talk as a commission about what issues that you're interested to put on long range. And then as we plan agendas, we can discuss their feasibility.
Okay, so then I'm going to ask all of you to take a look at the list. Are there things that we can remove, things that should be added?
And also, I think, keep in mind that we want to, build consensus, and also, if there, as we learned in our training, if you want to put those to a vote, that's great, because, just one member saying, sounds interesting to me, does not put it on the agenda. So I think you either have, universal agreement, or
But we don't have to make motions.
you don't have to, but you could.
Because if we went through every one of these and made a motion for every one of them. So let me just say, is there any, can I make a motion as chair?
Where do you see this list?
It's on your camp, right on the.
Oh, okay, right in front of me.
It's it was from on our old minutes. I mean,
Okay.
On our old agendas.
And for the new members, you aren't held to this list. This was something that, other members of in the past have put on. So these may or may not be of interest to you.
And to me, the second one and the last one are pretty much the same. Yeah.
I mean,
Seems like members of the.
Yeah. So right now, we know that tasers are going to be a follow-up. We've got the after action picnic day and safety protocol for large events, downtown public safety. Those are the three, well, combo two right now that there seems to be an interest in. Or does anyone have an
So I'm
interest?
hearing from Cecilia, I haven't
Well, I
heard,
know, I was just
and
going to
you,
say
but I'm
though,
not
if,
hearing
I
from
just
anybody
want to
else.
find out if there's anything else, and then we can discuss the ones. If this
Got
is,
it.
if this, are these, if these are the only ones that are of interest. Is there anything else on here that anyone is interested in even discussing? Otherwise, they'll be dropped.
I also second the fact that downtown safety and also more importantly, picnic day, which is coming up soon before we know it, the next one coming up. So I think those are very important.
Anything else on the list?
I'll go ahead and just say, I think, I'll just concur with you guys about some of the two things you've mentioned already, the downtown public safety. I think that's always important. The picnic day after action review, that sounds like it's valuable to the members of the public and to the commissioners here. As far as tasers, I think I would actually like to see, I'm kind of like a very technical interested person in this. So I've already read the entire police department manual. And I would like to actually expand on the tasers a little bit to use of force more broadly.
I thought they were going to bring forth something on tasers though, right?
They are, yeah.
Yes, I mean, so that's
Well,
all.
well, that's, so it's what I'm kind of seeing here is this point on the long range looks that's two different things. Like talking about the department's policies on tasers is different than talking about the taser incidents that are being reported, right?
No, I thought.
It's the same. I mean, both those facets would be covered. Like, here's the policy. It's on, actually, it's on the website.
Yeah.
But we would put it in the agenda item. If you had questions about the policies, those would be answered. I would imagine Chief Henry may want to be there for that, but I'm not sure. I don't want to speak for him.
Yeah, well, all I'm adding here is, and then those three issues,
Okay.
those top three right there, I think are, I'm in favor of also like having on our agenda at some point. Like, I think those are solid.
So
The rest, I don't have any strong feelings actually about any of the other pieces on here.
neither do I.
particularly.
I'm also okay with dropping. I mean, we talked about the income. I think that's legislation. I don't even know why is that. Why is it that
Which one?
the moving violation
Oh, yeah,
ticket fees determined by income?
Yeah, some other countries do stuff like that, but that would, I think, be it's a much broader legislative issue than what we should be dealing with here, I think.
And I don't even know why some of these were carryover before.
Well,
I was even on
that
here.
would be a state issue anyway. State
Yeah, it would
government issue.
require
Wouldn't be.
changing
I
traffic.
can't see how that
state
would
law.
be
So, okay.
our
so-
commission's involvement.
So then at this point, my question, can I make motions?
Yes.
Chair can make a motion. Then I would like to make a motion that for our long-term calendar, the things that we remain on the list will be tasers, cases and policies. After action review for picnic day and safety protocols for large events being one combo. And then the third issue being downtown public safety. And is there a second?
I'd like to I would second that, or
Okay, so it's
third
open-
if
it's
you
open
were
for
ahead of me.
comments then.
But I also would like a little, to make a little comment on that point.
Okay, it's open for comment.
If I may. Thank you. The safety protocols at large events is, brings to mind the picnic day, not the picnic day, excuse me, the No Kings events, which we've had, the one in Woodland, and then we had Davis a big one just a few weeks ago. And I had made notes in preparation for today's meeting to see if we couldn't think about, this would be part of a larger issue that's connected to it, but I'll just say in terms of large events, and an example would be No Kings, where there is a potential for problems and violations of protocols of and laws of every kind, and puts a strain. It's a big a huge responsibility for the police department, one of their biggest, and I'm sure they prepare well for it. And as far as I know, they can only be commended for the way whatever they did. I don't know, but we don't seem to have had any problems with the one in Davis recently. So I would say that was a major victory or accomplishment for the Davis Police Department. In that context, it would be good for us to have some outlining from the chief, or if it's a more appropriate other person in the department who's closer to that issue, whatever, so that we have some sense of policy. It's one thing to say, great, congratulations, we didn't have problems, but rather than just leave it there, I'd like to know a little more about the reasons why we didn't have problems, and would have to do with the preparation that they do and the way they handle the situation. So I'm very much in favor of that, and it's connected to well, I'll just leave it there. I was going to bring up a related issue, but I won't. I'll just say that large events and how the police department, our police department, prepares for them, and what their experiences have taught them. I think the training and the plans, all of that, I would like to have a session on that.
Okay, so now we need to vote on the motion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any public comment? Okay, I have a question about the,
May I
Oh.
also, so the one thing we also talked about a few weeks ago, or maybe on the first meeting, was the question of scooters and electric bikes. And I think there is a safety issue in terms of enforcement. Many of them don't even wear helmet, majority on their cell phone. So I want to kind of put that into the long term, whether, for example, I mean, enforcing that you must have helmets on, and also some enforcement on how fast they can go, and also enforcement on you shouldn't be having headphone and on your phone and just breezing through the crowd and hoping that people are gonna be okay.
so this is a state of California issue, not just a Davis issue, right? I mean,
Correct.
I think the university is establishing some kind of a policy, but they are a different entity, right? So I mean, they can do whatever.
Correct.
Correct. So my question to you then is, is this something you would like to add to the long term?
I think so, because also there's a very blur boundary where campus ends and where the city starts. And this is also probably more severe in downtown Davis. Of course, on campus it's pretty bad too. And I see head injuries. I've never had head injuries before. In the last 2 years, students in my class are having head injuries, and every time they're out for a month. And so if I'm seeing it in such a small sample of 50 or 100 students, I don't know what the stat is at the much larger level.
So the idea would be to have someone do a presentation on what the law is, because it is state law, you know, what we can do here in Davis, and what we can't do. And I know this issue is top of mind. So I can ask the chief kind of where they are. I know that he's talking with Public Works in terms of, you know, like even something as simple as some, you know, speed signs. But I don't know where they are in the process. But
And I would just say that we've also, that this has come up before and it's sort of an overlap with transportation.
Oh, good point, Gloria.
Right? And so this, I think we've always landed on this is more in the purview of safety,
Transportation, yeah. I
I
could-
say that.
I believe I sent you all,
You did.
yeah. And so I'm happy to inquire about, with the assistant city manager and the parties involved, our group is really interested in this too. And, it may come down that they'll say, no, the Transportation Commission is handling this, or it may come down, they say, oh, okay, sure, so I'll have to ask about it.
But I still, that makes sense, but I still think the enforcement will fall under police. Even if the
Sure.
transportation is, there's an enforcement
That's
element.
true. I think that we have to look at it from the lens of this commission is like an oversight of. what
Is the police is ticketing, issuing tickets, for example, for not having helmets and not having your phone on and headphone, covering your ears and just going as fast as you can without paying any attention or having.
We need a whole.
If I may,
There's no law, and that's where the problem
well,
comes in.
I think that's to the point. I think what I'm seeing here, what my opinion or perspective on it is that we would be like phase 3 of this conversation where, maybe a transportation commission, maybe the city council makes some decisions about, how they want to treat that and how they want to direct the police department to do it. And then I think our function is like reviewing, what kinds of policies and protocols that the police department and the chief come up with for enforcement and how, and then what do we think about? So that seems like sort of phase 3 of the conversation, which I'm curious to say, Mohammed, like I'm very curious to see kind of how big of a problem this is and maybe just be more educated on this as a concern. But as far as like taking any kind of, action ourselves at this stage seems a little premature. But as for asking for some information, I'm in favor of getting more information.
And I'm on the community advisory board too, and this is an issue that has come up, and that's the only reason I have the background that I do have is because it was a discussion and that right now they can't do anything because they're not considered motorcycles and or automobiles. And that's what the laws are.
But I would be shocked to hear, maybe it is true, there's no policy on speed limit on just bikes in general,
On bicycles,
on bicycles?
but not on the scooters and.
No, I think there are some policies about speed limits on the scooters, especially
bizarre.
like on green belts.
Yeah, right. But I think they can also go on the sidewalk though.
That's even worse.
I know, but I think right now there's. nothing
Well,
that's-
let me ask about like, an information only, because there sounds like there's lots of questions from a public safety standpoint.
I mean, yeah, to be even honest, like I would just be open to, is there already a report that has been put
There
together?
is, which
Like,
I sent.
I would just
I'll
like
send
to
it to
s-
you.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. So that would
I
be
will
my
send it to
starting
you.
place personally, like just to learn more about this issue in particular.
So is this still something though that we should be putting on the long-term calendar?
Why don't, if there's consensus that you want to put it on, we can put it on and I can research it and see where they're at in their
You've made a
timeline.
motion to put this on the long term.
Made a motion. to
I will
put-
second it. All in favor?
Aye.
That was easy. Okay, but can we talk about this for just a second?
You mean the beautiful new,
Yeah. I have a question and Michael, maybe you can answer
this
this.
new template we have? for
Don't
the
we have to look
2026
at
year?
military equipment?
It's going to be
isn't that
automatic, I
something
think.
That is annually something, it seems to me every year we've done that and that's
Yeah.
not on here.
Well, right, this is just a template. This is for next year. And so, I would ask the chief, when will you have the military equipment done? When will you have the surveillance report done? And then we'll populate this.
Okay, so what you have on here is not not finished. There's still things that we know that we probably.
Oh, no, by no means. It's basically a template that I added police auditor review and outreach event to.
Okay, okay,
And now I can add subcommittee members to it.
okay. So far then, as our December meeting, where do we assign things that we want to do? I mean, so like right now, December, which is not on that calendar, it's on that one. We don't have anything for December.
Well, that's something that we would do in our agenda setting meeting.
Okay,
Also, December is a busy month. Sometimes commissions opt not to do a meeting in December. We could see what, we can come up with. I can talk to OIR and see, hey, are you going to have some cases for us to look at? And so I definitely, want there to be substance to the meeting. And so I can start doing some research based on these motions and based on what OIR can bring forward, and then we can decide what you want to do in December.
okay.
I know. No, we don't. Yeah, I know. We're calling this the lightning year.
Okay,
If we're headed towards adjournment, I have a couple of very quick items that I would like to bring up.
Do we want to take public comment
any
on that?
public comment on our, thank you. You make this so easy. Thank you. Yes,
Yes, all right. These are very quick. At last month's meeting, one of the citizens speaking brought up the issue of the lobby being locked at the police department. And I had seen that also when I went over for my tour. So has anyone followed up with the chief or with anyone to see if that's apparently a holdover from COVID, and that maybe we could get that adjusted, because I think the public, anybody in town may at some point want to go in and talk to somebody at the police department, and to walk into a locked lobby and find there's not even anybody behind the glass, and they knock or they yell and eventually somebody comes out. That's not really the way to do
There's a ring
business.
there and there's someone always there. Yeah.
You think it's been handled?
They'll buzz you in, but I can ask the chief, Don. I can ask the chief what the status of that policy is and why it's a holdover from COVID. It could be security issues. I don't know.
Well, I'm saying, can we find out?
Yeah.
Yeah,
can
okay,
ask.
that's great. And my last one is even quicker than that. And that is because I wasn't able to attend last month. I watched the video of the meeting and I found it to be a very uncomfortable experience, and I'll tell you why. Very simple thing. You're looking at a screen with 80% of the screen is the agenda, and it didn't change at all, just for the whole hour or 2 hours. And way up in the corner is a little teeny panel, which is the picture from the owl. So way up in the corner in a little teeny panel, you're seeing the meeting. Otherwise, you're looking at just a static photograph of the agenda. So it's a technical thing, and I don't know who does it or how it's changed, or if it was just for that one meeting or whatever. But I felt, wow, if this is what people see when they take up our invitation to watch the meeting online, or and subsequently on the YouTube video, it's not a very good experience.
I will ask about that.
That's all. That's all my question. Thank you.
adjourned.
Thanks.
Well, technically it's 8:36.
Yeah, that clock is terribly behind.
Oh, I did. It was looking a little sad.